Okay, so that's arithmetic, it's basic finance. But now we ask, what determines ST if that surplus is determined by the government? That's government revenues minus taxes that I'm going to use to service my bondholders. That's the heart of what we're talking about when we talk about the euro. So people don't like economists because we're always talking about budget constraints and what you can't do and what's feasible. So they call economics the dismal science because of this math I'm telling you about. But that's life. So now I'm going to talk about a little bit about economic theory, and I'm going to cut through all the details and try to tell you how economists think about things. So what I talked about before was that's just pure finance, and it's that the value of a bond is the present value of the payments that it's going to make. But now if we're going to talk about the government, I have to ask what determines ST, the whole stream of government surpluses that are going to be sufficient to pay the debt. And if I'm going to talk about what went on in the United States, I'm going to have to be able to answer what determines ST. So I'm going to tell you what a theory is. So I'm going to tell you what an economic model is. So here's my job. Consists of an environment, a complete description of the world. So I don't know if you're a computer science major. I walked by some computer science students and they were building models. So a whole imaginary world. So we're going to build an imaginary economic world. It's going to be an environment. What it's going to consist of is a bunch of people. We're going to list all the people. We call them agents. A bunch of people. We're going to describe what actions every person can take. So think about yourself. You're an agent. Think of all the economic actions you can take. You can, spend on this, spend on that, study, not study. That's an economic action. Because when you're studying, you're investing. You can have a cigarette, hope not. You can pay off your debt, you can lend, you can buy stock. All those things are actions. So I'm going to have a list of your actions. Then I'm going to have a list of information flows. So information is flowing into you, partly through your choice and partly not through your choice. Not through your choice. The teacher is returning your exam today, and you got a D. That's an information flow. And then timing protocols. And this is key. A timing protocol is who chooses what when. Who chooses what when. So who makes what action when? You with me? So if you played soccer or baseball or football or cricket, that would have all the components of an environment. So an economist thinks of a game like cricket or baseball as an environment and an economy. So that's my description of the environment. Now I'm going to have a theory of psychology, and this is what economists do: optimizing behavior. Everybody is selfish. They may be altruistic, but you talked about utility functions. That's just a characteristic of, if they're altruistic, I'm just going to change their utility function so they get utility from helping other people. So that everybody's going to optimize. And that's why you see economists using calculus, because we're going to the top of the hill. We're using calculus to maximize. That's our theory of economic behavior. And then a notion of equilibrium. This is a powerful notion of equilibrium. It's not what you guys use. Although at a deep level it is. It's that everybody is optimizing given the behavior of other people. And what are those other people doing? I said everybody's optimizing, giving the behavior of other people. So it's a system in which nobody has an incentive to deviate from what they're doing. You with me? That's when an economist says equilibrium, that's what he means. Doesn't mean a system at rest. It doesn't mean a system with no shocks, no. Everybody's doing the best they can, given what everybody else has done. So do you play soccer? Baseball? Any game? Poker? Bridge? Any game? If you're, think of what you're doing. You're doing the best that you can, hopefully. But you're making, what you do, what you should do is depends on what your opponent's doing. That's it. Another way to say this is there's an ancient Chinese proverb. The government has strategies. The people have counter strategies. That's it. So, but that proverb, I'm looking for another proverb. That proverb is all about an equilibrium within a particular environment and a particular set of timing protocols. Okay, that's it. So that's how an economist thinks about the world. Okay, so here's what we do. So the idea is environment plus behavior plus equilibrium, that leads to a whole probability distribution over outcomes. The world is random and uncertain and risky place, but when we put all this together, we get a whole description of how the world's going to move in the future than today. That's our tool. That's what we do. That's what the young people I met today are telling me about their models. They're doing that. Okay, so the question is, okay, so how do I put flesh on this? Okay, so I'm going to talk about the way we'll build a model. Well, what's our model? We're going to have government, voters, creditors. Their actions are going to include fiscal and monetary policies, voting, and portfolio choices. And then timing protocols. Here's the key thing. What do I mean by a timing protocol? I'm going to call that a constitution, political institutions. So for me, a political institution is a description of who chooses what when. Set of rules. And I'm going to use this in a minute. And so what I'm going to say is if I had a complete model, that's going to actually, so remember, I began this diatribe by asking the question, what determines the process of government surplus? And what I'm saying was, well, it's going to be this whole institutional arrangement that's going to determine an equilibrium. So I put this all together, and that's what's going to determine S. So if you ask me, okay, so I've already set you up to talk about this thing I said I wasn't going to talk about, the euro. What's determining the value of European government debt? Well, it's trivially, it's the value of the future, it's the present value of surpluses. Now I have to ask, what's determining the surpluses? Well, I need an equilibrium. I need a constitution, among other things.